Asus has yet again thrown everything but the kitchen sink into the latest ROG Phone 3. So how has this generation flagship from Asus turned out? Now, I've been using it as my primary for about 2 weeks, and in this video I'm going to share my takeaways from the time that I've spent with the ROG Phone 3. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and if you do end up liking what you see in this video, please subscribe and turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Let's now get started. Let's get this out of the way straight away. The ROG Phone 3 is a heavy phone. There are no two ways about it. At 240 grams, this is gonna be one of the most heaviest phones that you're gonna come across. Now, there's a good reason for it, but that's not gonna make it any easier on your hands, especially when you're holding this phone and taking long calls. Now, that's something I absolutely detested doing. I usually use Bluetooth earphones for all my calling, but on the rare occasion I didn't get my hands on a pair and I used the ROG, I found myself hating it. The call quality itself was fine, the earpiece sounded clear, the cellular reception was great, the support for 5G too if that's something you want. Now the reason why the ROG Phone 3 is heavy is twofold. First, the battery. Just like last gen, this one packs a 6000 mAh battery too. Now if you look at other flagship phones, ones that are around this size, they all pack anywhere between 4000 to say 5000 mAh capacity batteries. So the battery capacity here, it's anywhere between 25 to 50% higher than those phones. And that's not just an on-paper thing either. With day-to-day use, the ROG Phone 3 offers the best battery life amongst any phone with a flagship chip that I've used. Even with every setting on, pushing this phone to the max, I never had the battery run dry before the end of a day. So, what all could affect the battery life? That's quite a list here, and let's take a look at them one by one. First, the display. We have a 6.59-inch panel here too, similar to what we got with the ROG Phone 2 last time. The resolution remains unchanged at Full HD+, and the bezels to the top and bottom remain larger than average. I didn't really mind it though, since as a gaming phone, the aim for Asus here was to give some gripping space. The technology, again, it's AMOLED. So what has changed? The refresh rate. This panel goes up to 144Hz now, and while that's great, one thing I love about ROG phones in general is that unlike most other brands, Asus allows for multiple options. You can set it to 60, 90, 120 or 144Hz or leave it on auto and let the phone figure what's best. In my time with the ROG Phone 3, I kept the refresh rate on 144Hz throughout because I felt what's the point in having it if I wasn't using it, right? While we are on the topic of displays, another point worth noting is that there is support for HDR and the display gets very bright. So outdoor use is not an issue at all. There's also support for always-on functionality. Another factor that affects battery life is the processor, the SoC. And the ROG Phone 3 uses the most powerful one Qualcomm has to offer at the moment. And they are using the same chip all over the world. It's not like they have the Snapdragon 865 Plus in other markets and a different chip in India. I'm just saying. Now, this is the first time we've seen the 865 Plus in action, and generally what happens with phones is that when you keep pushing them more and more, like long gameplay sessions or just to check if you keep rerunning benchmarks over and over again, you can see the numbers begin to drop. As peak performance is reached, the heat generation increases, and with more heat, the phone is forced to scale back the performance, throttle a little to get that heat under control. As a gaming phone, Asus cannot afford to let that happen. So to combat that throttling, the ROG Phone 3 has possibly the largest vapor chamber and heatsink on a phone. That's even partly visible here via the back, this transparent portion. This ensures the heat's dissipated easily and the phone gets to maintain peak performance for longer than the competition. The X mode also returns to ensure that performance is prioritized, and if the Aeroactive Cooler 3, if it's added, then the performance is pushed even further because there is active cooling then. So what happens when the peak performance is sustained for a long period of time? Well, you guessed it right, the battery drains faster. So even with 144Hz, the sustained peak performance, the large bright display, the fastest processor running on X mode, with all this on, the 6000 mAh battery inside was still able to last through a day on a single charge for me on each day of the 2 weeks that I've spent with this phone. Admittedly, I wasn't gaming too much with it since I'm not a hardcore gamer, but even on days where we were testing out gaming, we did not run into any battery issues. Now, if you need to charge back up quickly, the quick charger can get us from 0 to 100 in about an hour and a half. 0 to 50, we should get there in about 30-ish minutes if I can recall correctly. The 30-watt charger is included in the box this time. And moving on, variants here include 8 or 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM to go along with 128 or 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. There is a 16/512 option that's not available in India at the moment. Asus say they might bring it in later if there is demand for it. Now all this power, again, it's not just on paper or just for gaming. With day-to-day use, the ROG Phone 3 fared really well, and I love the choice that Asus provides. If you want an entirely gamery look, you could choose that right out of the box and you get these gamery looking theme and icons to your phone. If instead you want a more stockish experience, you can go with that. There's no bloat either. Asus have just tinkered around with the bare basics. Armory Crate returns, it helps with enhancing the gaming experience. There are a few game-specific hardware features baked into this phone. One, these two USB ports you see here, this is where the air cooler plugs in, and it lets us charge and use headphones right from the middle of the phone so you don't feel the phone pull to one side while you're gaming. Next, there are 4 microphones on board, and this should help with commentary while streaming. Talking about which, screen recording is quite easy. And finally, 8 triggers. Now they've doubled. We can get L1, L2, R1, R2, all 4 on the ROG Phone 3. So these ultrasonic keys here, they have 2 specific pressure points that can be used to trigger an action each. And we can even set how much pressure is needed to trigger them. And of course, like I mentioned in the unboxing, shake to reload is a thing. I mean, you don't have to set it to reload, but you can shake the phone to perform pretty much any action you want in game, maybe nitrous. Now, all these should give you a definite advantage with gaming, and more than the competitive part, they're enjoyable. Now, that's the thing about gaming, right? It's about enjoyment. Asus have also continued building an ecosystem surrounding the ROG Phone 3. True to their word, all ROG Phone 2 accessories, barring the Aeroactive Cooler 2, they work with the ROG Phone 3. And all ROG Phone 3 accessories, barring the Aeroactive Cooler 3, they work with the ROG Phone 2. And there are quite a few of them, ranging from ones to get multiple displays to the phone, to get an entire desktop experience, to a switch kind of experience. Now, I did a dedicated video on this for the ROG Phone 2, and I'll try to do one for the ROG Phone 3 too later. Now, if I had to name one thing I did not like about the ROG Phone 3, it's gotta be the removal of the headphone jack. Now, for a gaming phone, one that's this big and heavy, I think Asus should have found a way to retain it. But it is what it is. Now, while on the topic of things that I did not like, things that are omitted, IP certification, that's another omission. Wireless charging is another big one that's not here. And OIS, something we've come to expect from phones in this segment. Even phones that are priced cheaper, we've come to expect OIS, but Asus continues to omit it. So now, anyway, let's take this as a segue into cameras. We get 3 of them to the back. The primary is the very, very respectable 64 megapixel Sony IMX686, which Asus have paired with an f1.8 lens that is not optically stabilized. Under good light, it takes as good looking pictures as any other camera in segment. The colors, they come out vivid, the dynamic range is excellent, we have blue skies, good detail retention in the shadows. Under low light, now that's where the lack of OIS shows. Now, Asus have tried to compensate as much as they can by including a dedicated night mode. It does offset this a little bit, but at the end of the day, hardware is hardware. Or rather, the lack of hardware is the lack of something, right? So the lack of OIS is felt. Now, the other 2 sensors, they do perform as good as you can expect them to. The 13 megapixel ultra wide, the 5 megapixel macro, they're pretty self-explanatory. On the video front, Asus is one of the few brands to include 8K video, which, let's be honest, it's more of a gimmick at this point. What isn't a gimmick though, what is more useful, is the fact that there is a pro mode for video. Now that I really enjoyed using. The 24 megapixel selfie camera is quite serviceable. Now, with all that said and done, it's time to talk pricing. Now, what I'm about to tell you is Asus's explanation for the price here, shooting up from 38,000 to 50,000 between a generation. It looks like a 31% increase in price, but this is what they say. The ROG Phone 2, it came in at 38,000. Now let's say 38,000 by 70, which was the exchange rate for US dollars at that point. That kind of makes it 543 US dollars back then. Now today the rupee depreciation means they're converting at 76, which makes it 543 into 76, 41,726 or something like that if we are converting today. Similarly, the GST hike from 12% to 18% makes this about 43,500-ish, and they claim 2,500 rupees is what the 30-watt charger costs, and they've removed 1,000 rupees for the 18-watt charger they've taken out of the box. So the pricing comes to roughly 45,000. That is what it would have cost for them if they launched the ROG Phone 2 today. With a 30-watt charger in the box under these circumstances, the current dollar rates, the current GST prices and all. So looking at it that way, they say it's an 11% increase is what they've done for all that they're offering with the ROG Phone 3. Now this is Asus's point of view. Do you buy this explanation or not? Let me know in the comments below. To me personally, it makes sense. I feel given the increase in prices of a lot of other phones, with phones coming out with plastic backs at prices way above 60,000 rupees, the ROG Phone 3 it looks to be of great value today. As long as you're someone who is okay dealing with that 240 grams of weight, and cameras, if they aren't of top priority to you, at least if that stabilization isn't top priority to you, then the ROG Phone 3, it should serve you really, really well. So that's my take on this phone. Now you tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, we get to the end of this review. Thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about it. Subscribe and turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. And thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4 Retech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.